Welcome to District Deep Dive, where I, a walking encyclopedia of Hunger Games knowledge, deep dive the entire Hunger Games series. Except for today. Today, we are doing something a little bit different and special. I'm going to be discussing and possibly debunking some Hunger Games theories with my fellow Hunger Games creator, CJ's Galaxy.
Hey guys, I'm CJ from CJ's Galaxy. I talk everything to do with the Hunger Games. I do a bunch of Hunger Games series. So if you guys love daily Hunger Games content, then definitely come and subscribe to my channel.
Nice. Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I know it's so weird trying to do like intros or talk about yourself.
yeah. So we're doing a debunking video today. On my channel, I do a debunking series where I get my subscribers to send in like theories to do like they have their own theories, send them in, and then I say like whether I agree or disagree with evidence from the text. So I thought it'd be interesting to do like a collab with Hannah here. So super excited to be doing this collab today.
I am too. So the first theory is Johanna originally hated Katniss because she succeeded in saving both Prim and Peeta's lives during the 74th Games. I think one of the biggest reasons why Johanna has such a distaste to Katniss during Catching Fire is because Katniss succeeded in saving the lives of both her sister and her district partner, whereas when Johanna tried to save the lives of her loved ones, she failed. While it's a common theory in the fandom, I don't think Johanna's loved ones died because she refused to be trafficked by the Capitol. I think people get this implication from Haymitch said in Mockingjay when he said his case was upheld as the example to victors like Finnick, Johanna, and Kashmir, implying the refusal to participate by the Capitol's rules would lead to death of their loved ones. But I don't see a possibility where Johanna would willingly refuse while knowing it would cause the death of the people she cared about. She's selfish and callous in the trilogy, yes, but I always got the impression she was that way because of what happened to the people she loved. Of all the victors, she is certainly the angriest, and there must be a reason. I think that in some ways, maybe she was put in situations similar to Katniss. Maybe she was reeked with someone she cared about, or ended up mentoring one of her own loved ones, a sibling or a friend, and couldn't save them from the arena like Katniss did with Prim. Maybe she lost one of her fellow victors. We know District 7 didn't have that many, and I know many people have wondered why. Who she really cared about, and it's why she finds Katniss and Peeta together unbearable. Either way, in text, it's pretty clear that Katniss and Johanna are quite similar people. Johanna is who Katniss would have become if she'd lost absolutely everyone, and I can totally see how she would resent Katniss for having, at the time, all the things she tried so hard to keep. It also makes sense how she'd warm up to her in Mockingjay when she sees herself more in Katniss, and why Katniss's gesture giving her the gift of pine is so impactful.
I like when people kind of speculate around Joanna because we don't know a lot of her backstory, how exactly she won her games. I think when it comes to her games, all we really know is that she played like the coward role and then came out as like this vicious killer. I've seen some people also speculate in the fandom and in my like theory form that possibly Joanna is like this person who was kind of like Haymitch and that she was edited like a vicious killer. And then in the way that Haymitch is kind of edited in a way to make him look a lot more vicious than he actually was, or at least like when he's rewatching the propaganda of his games, that he looks to be he doesn't think it's like him. He doesn't feel like he's watching himself. And
Right.
people have speculated maybe Joanna wasn't actually like that, and simply she kind of became the role that the Capitol placed on her in the same way that Haymitch did. He became like that rascal.
Yeah, I think because she did lose everyone, we don't, like they said, we don't know exactly why. Everyone just theorizes it's because she refused to, you know, kill
Yeah,
herself. I'm trying to like not say it without but also
yeah,
saying
yeah,
it. Um, yeah, I've always wondered about that too because if Joanna had known what the consequences would be if she refused, she, I wouldn't see her just refusing and like, oh well, my family's gonna die. Um, but maybe she also didn't know exactly what would happen. I It's hard to say because what did Joanna view? How do I say this? They don't know exactly what happens to the victors afterwards. Like Katniss even has like a rose tinted glasses kind of before she's actually a victor and knows what that entails.
yeah,
I'm sure she knows like, oh, if I do something wrong, they're gonna kill my family. But maybe for some reason she was a little bit more naive or innocent and thought, oh, I don't want to do this. No, I'm not gonna do that. And Snow didn't outright say I'm gonna kill your family, so she refused and didn't know that was gonna inadvertently kill her family.
yeah. Because when it comes to like Hamish or like with Joanna, what we get as evidence from the text is literally any comparisons we can have from Haymitch, since she's supposed to, like the theorizer said, that it comes the quote of like Haymitch is the example for the Phoenix, Johannas, and Cashmere's of the games. That means they're all very similar victors to him. That something happened in terms of like rebellion when it came to their games, that they needed a way to control all of these victors in the way that they controlled Hamish and ensured that he didn't have any loved ones. So when it comes to like Joanna hating Katniss because she is everything that Joanna didn't get out of life, I wouldn't be surprised. There's one quote that I absolutely love in Mockingjay is that Katniss refers to Joanna as that like older sister who hates you.
Yeah.
It's like, and I love that because it's like this older sister who's seeing your parents became like a little more lax
Yeah.
when the younger sibling got there to your age, and you're like, well, at that age, I wasn't allowed to do that. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like Joanna's looking at Katniss and being like, well, I wasn't allowed to do that when it
And
comes to the Capitol.
I'm on in my deep dive. I'm on right now, like the right before the tribute interviews, and so I'm talking about a little bit in there that I mean I've compared a little bit like Joanna in the movie and then Joanna in the book. They are both like spicy. They have attitudes, which we love about her, but they are a little bit different. And like how she sasses Katniss in the book is a little bit different than in the movie. Um, she is a little bit more not necessarily passive aggressive, but she's more like let's talk about clothes kind of thing when they're on the elevator.
Yeah,
Not like in the movie, she's like I wasn't talking to you, like straight up bitchy to Katniss, but she's a
yeah,
little bit more two faced bitchy, I guess is what you would call it in the book.
yeah,
Because I think, but like her telling Snow and going over, or telling Snow, telling Katniss to make Snow pay for it with her dress and going over there and like fixing her necklace. You see, like it, like you were saying a little bit, like the sisterly. You can not like your sibling, but also love them.
yeah. You still want like a better outcome for them. You want to care about them, look after them. And I
Yeah.
feel like I think even Katniss says it like you said that Katniss refers to it as like girl talk,
Mm-hmm.
and that Katniss goes, "Ugh, girl talk. I don't know how to do this." And Joanna immediately knows how to talk like that, even though she has the same kind of like tomboyish personality. I don't think
Yeah.
we like refer to like tomboys as much anymore, but like back then or at least like I haven't heard it in a while. But
Yeah.
in when the novels originally came out in like 2008, that like Katniss was like this tomboy
Yeah.
character and was a lot more masculine than a lot of the female characters at the time. And Joanna has those personality traits. It's just that she also has the girl talk kind of personality at the
Yeah.
same time as Candace. Like they have this kind of connection that means that they have similar experiences, similar personality traits.
I think Joanna, Haymitch, and Katniss all kind of they're all very sarcastic and they can have, they can
Yeah.
be angry and take their anger out on the wrong person. And I think Joanna's no different than Katniss or Haymitch in that regard. I put something down for from in Mockingjay about how Katniss even straight up asked her, like, is this why you hate me after she was shot? Because she's like, oh, they'll have to get you a new spleen if you had to have it. Um, so Joanna had said that line, and Joanna said why she hated her was partially because she was jealous of her. So she will straight up say just like part of it is jealousy. So maybe that's
Yeah.
part of that is because you were able to save your family and I wasn't. And then of course she's talking.
Yeah.
She calls her a little hard to swallow. I wonder if some of it is also projecting. Some of the stuff that she hates Katniss
Oh, yeah.
for could also be just stuff she
Yeah.
doesn't like about herself.
We know, I don't know if we have an example of like other victors projecting onto Katniss because they're kind of all very protective of Katniss because she is the Mockingjay. She's the one that finally sparked the rebellion.
Yeah, I mean they like to
And
you kind of got a little bit of a sibling dynamic with them just
yeah,
before the quell because they're all messing with her. I mean, she gets mad about it, but they are all just poking fun at her with making her feel uncomfortable. And Joanna does it too. I mean, that's why she stripped down. It was because she wanted to mess with Katniss.
yeah, they have a really good, I want to say. I don't know if it's like a good relationship. Like they have a close relationship. We see in Mockingjay they eventually develop. They become like roommates. But it's like it's good character building from Suzanne Collins that we can see that Joanna likely did have a very similar experience to Haymitch and to Katniss, and the way in which Joanna is acting is likely because Joanna lost people and she wasn't able to save them. I just like we don't have a lot of evidence to really speculate exactly who Joanna had either. I don't think she mentioned to us in the original trilogy. Haymitch tells us that he had a girlfriend, and I don't think he mentions his family, but
He
or maybe he does.
he says that he lost his family and his girl like 2 weeks after he had won,
Yeah,
because it's like around the same. It's
yeah,
right after, because I was just putting this in my outline. It's right
yeah,
after when Finnick talks about what Snow did to him for the Propo. Um, Katniss asked him, is that what happened to you? And he said no, that my family and my girl were dead like 2 weeks after he was crowned victor.
yeah. So Hamish outright tells us who he lost from his games in the original trilogy before we even got Sunrise on the Reaping. And obviously there was more to the story as we
Yeah,
found out.
it's like now we know.
Yeah. But when it comes to Joanna, she doesn't tell us a lot of information. She hides a lot of that, what is going on with her. She hides a lot of who she lost. And I wonder if she's trying to like hold them close, but that ends up being a projection onto Katniss because physically Katniss can hold all of her people close, but Joanna can't do that. All she has left are memories.
Yeah. So do you believe that theory?
I personally want to say yes because I think there's a lot of comparisons with Haymitch, and we know Haymitch is also very similar to Katniss, and Katniss was simply just the luckier version of Haymitch. And if Joanna's being compared to Haymitch, then we can also compare Joanna to Katniss and
Yeah.
all the jealousy and the hatred and like the older sister act and
Yeah.
characterization. I want to say yes. What do you think?
I think I could believe that theory, just because I could definitely see her just being angry and taking it out on Katniss and projecting, getting mad at Katniss because it's easier than being angry or being upset over what happened to her family. Just Katniss is right there. It's someone I can blame for all my pain, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd probably ease her pain quite a bit as well. And I just, as a side note, I really like every time, it makes me so sad when I read, or it's like a bittersweet moment when Katniss goes out of her way to find a bunch of, I think it's like pine, and
Yeah.
she, in the theory, says a gift of pine to Joanna because she wasn't able to go to the capital to kill Snow. But that also like meant Joanna survived the rebellion at the same time. I think it's very bittersweet that she was able to give Joanna some pine.
Yeah. Like give her the little token of home. Because Katniss
Yeah,
would know, like, firsthand, I lost my home too. This is a little bit of comfort I can
yeah,
give you.
yeah. I think it's so sweet their relationship, even though there's a lot of a little bit of hatred and jealousy there.
I like how it's not, I don't want to say I like how it's not easy, but I like how it's so complicated because you get multiple layers
Yeah,
to it.
I think that's something Susan Collins is really good at,
Yeah.
is the layers of all of her characters.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about it. The next theory is I have seen in the past the idea that Annie wasn't a career, but just a regular citizen, and the girl who was supposed to go that year got too scared, so the reaping went as it would for a non career district. But I don't like that idea. My theory is Annie was a career. She fought and killed in a bloodbath in her games, which she was not entirely prepared for, and during the time leading up to her district partner being killed, she was barely holding it together. She was trained to fight and kill, but she wasn't mentally prepared for the actual killing. And seeing her district partner, a person who she probably grew up with in the career schools, be killed, and not only killed, but decapitated, is what sent her over the edge, so she ran and hid and survived on the water and food her and the other careers would have had on them, because they, as we see in the 74th arena, take control of the cornucopia. Then the flood happened. I personally think it was a natural earthquake and not a rebel scheme or game maker trap, showing that even if the capital is strong, things like nature still are stronger, and she can swim and survives. How do you feel about that one?
This one, I've seen like two different ideas when it comes to Annie. One, her being a career tribute because she's from District 4, and the other is that Annie was someone who there's this idea that District 4 sends in like one volunteer and one person who's just reaped by the odds. And people want to say either she's a volunteer or either she was reaped by the odds. And people think that because of how young Finnick was going into the games, since he was only 14
Mm.
when he won, and he wouldn't have had enough time to train at that point. And possibly they're sending in older kids, like 16 to 18, to send in the people who are more likely to win. Um, when it comes to this theory, I think what the fandom has figured out is that Annie was 18 when she won her games. And she was like, that would have been her last year in the games or in the reaping. So I kind of think I subscribe to the idea that possibly she was a career tribute who volunteered that kind of went mad in the arena. What do you think?
I think we don't know who Annie was before the games, and
Yeah.
that can obviously, I mean, it's changed all the victors, but we haven't seen it change someone to that degree, but that's definitely possible. I mean, like we've had Titus like in the arena. They didn't want him to be a victor because he went mad and started eating people. So it's not like unheard of for a tribute to go a little bit out of their mind. And so
Yeah.
we don't know how Annie was before. Maybe she was a career tribute. Maybe she was like, I mean, she could have been like Chloe for all we know. And the games just really broke her and she turned into who we know in Catching Fire or in Mockingjay too. But I could see it. I can understand both sides. I guess I don't want to say no. I don't want to say yes. Um, but now it's everything's iffy because of Sunrise. We're like, well, what did the Capitol? What actually happened? It may not have actually
Yeah.
happened this way. If we take it like what Katniss says happened, or what the original trilogy says, that Annie went crazy after, seeing her district partner beheaded. Annie could have just been sweet like she normally is, and she ended up in the games. She didn't want to volunteer, and she didn't, and just ended up tribute by happenstance. And that just sent her over the edge, or it sent her over the edge, and she was already a career tribute. She was fine with it, but then that seeing someone that she cared about, let's say, be killed, that really changed the way she thought about the games. Like it woke her up from what the Capitol's been portraying as, oh, these are just so glorious things. You want to volunteer to go in these games. Um, it kind of overpowered that brainwashing maybe, and she's like, oh god, and then her whole world collapsed. On top of that, she's realized I just killed other kids. My district partner is gone. Whoever that was to her, even if they were just acquaintances, I could see that. I mean, I could see it both ways, just depending on who she was as a person before.
Yeah. And I think that when it comes to like how with the past theory, we're comparing like possibly, and we're like filling in the blanks for these different victors by comparing them to what we know about the stories of Haymitch and Katniss. I think there's evidence for both versions, and something that I say in my debunking series all the time is that if there's not anything in the text to necessarily disprove it, then for all we know it could be true. We don't know. We
Yeah.
can't read Suzanne Collins's mind. We only know so much. So we can only really see what's going on when it comes to other characters and who they have parallels with. Because when it comes to like volunteering at 18 years old and trying to figure out like who Annie was, whether she was a volunteer or if she was randomly reaped by the Hunger Games, one person that we know that was reaped at the age of 18 is Wyatt in Sunrise on the Reaping. And he's not represented in the movies. I feel like they cast in the movies. This is my own personal opinion. I don't know what you think about the casting of Wyatt, but he looks quite different in the books, or at least how I imagined it, than he's been cast in the movies. I'm not disappointed with the casting, but I think that it's just like different with movie canon and book canon
Mm.
because Wyatt is described as this. Hamish tells us that he believes Wyatt has started working in the mines. He's like this tall. I don't know if he's like necessarily like muscular, but he's like broad, and he's more like Gale in the way I imagine him. I don't know if you imagine him the same way, but I imagine him more like Gale.
I'm trying to remember because once the casting was announced, like I've reread Sunrise since then, so I'm like, what
Yeah,
did I'm trying to remember what I pictured like right when it first came out. Like I don't even remember how I pictured
they kind of
Wyatt.
blend together
Yeah, I'm like,
eventually. Yeah.
yeah, because once the casting's announced, then it's like it rewires in my head like what they look like. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, what did like I know even like if I'm reading Sunrise on the Reaper, if I'm reading Hunger Games, I know canonically like, in the books, Hamish is supposed to have dark hair and he's supposed to have the seam look, but in my mind, he's Woody Harrelson with blonde hair. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
no, that
but so that's what I picture, even though I know like that's not book accurate Hamish. So everything just gets rewired,
no, I'm
rewired.
totally the same. But I do remember that Wyatt is this like 18-year-old. He basically
Yeah.
looks like an adult at this point with Hamish's description. And he's just this 18-year-old who randomly got reaped in his last year in the reaping. He just had really bad odds at this point. And I believe a lot of people think that Thresh was also 18 going into his games, but I
Hmm.
don't know if that's necessarily confirmed. So when it comes to like people just having really bad odds and getting reaped at 18, there is definitely evidence of that. It's just not within the career districts. We also don't know how the career districts decide who goes in as a
Hmm.
volunteer and how they have that system. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. And then another piece of evidence that I have when it comes to like a certain career tribute going into the games and then turning into like going kind of crazy is like Kato. We don't know who Kato was necessarily before the games, but Candace kind of describes him as kind of deranged. He
Yeah,
has like anger management issues
yeah.
even like before he becomes a killer by the looks of it. So he is someone who like yeah went a little crazy, but at the same time he went crazy. There's also Titus who became like a
Hmm.
cannibal in one of the games, as Katniss describes in the first Hunger Games book to us. There's a number of tributes that went crazy in the arena, whether or not they were like that before they entered into the arena. So there's every possibility that the games changed Annie because of the trauma that happened.
Yeah. Because I think now we're just seeing the broken version of the person that went into that arena. So it's really hard to say. Like, you could argue both ways. Maybe she did just go in and she was already kind of, maybe she already had some mental issues. Maybe it was just, you're going in as a teenager to a fight to the death. That's gonna mess with anybody's head, I think. So
Yeah.
it could be, I think I could see both sides.
Yeah, there's definitely evidence for both. And so this theorizes essentially saying that Annie was a volunteer,
Yeah,
or she fought. Oh no, where did they say she fought and killed in the bloodbath?
I know Finnick also said that he didn't know he loved Annie right away, like she crept up on him. And I always took that
Yeah.
as because she's a little bit different, obviously, than the other victors. Because do we think Annie won after Finnick's games or before the 65th? I'm so bad with math.
To, to, I'm honestly really bad at math as well. I think to put them at the same age-ish, Annie would have to have won afterwards because Annie would have to be like as young as Finnick, if not younger, when she won her games, which we know she wouldn't have been 14,
Yeah,
if they won around the same time. So, and I think in the text they say, or Johanna tells Katniss she won a few years prior. She
yeah.
won like the 70th or the 71st games. So she won a little while after, maybe when she was around 18-ish, puts them around like 18, 20 when they first met, Finnick and Annie when they first met. So
So it had to have been
maybe
somewhere
she
between the
was, yeah,
65th and the 71st. So somewhere in there.
yeah, somewhere in
But
there. And yeah,
yeah, I don't even remember what I was saying before this. This is why I have to write out
when,
what I'm talking
yeah.
about. I start going on tangents.
Well, there's a lot to talk about when it
Yeah,
comes to the Hunger Games.
yeah, that's what
There's so much world building.
I I love it. Oh, I know what else I was gonna ask. I know there's a theory now with everything with Sunrise. If the flood was from the game makers, I know that this person that wrote this in didn't subscribe to the theory that it was some rebel plan that was foiled and that's why they flooded the arena. Do you think whether it was because of a rebel plan or just because they wanted to spice up the games that they flooded the arena? That's kind of a theory in a
It's
theory, but
it's interesting because we know from Sunrise on the Reaping that there is like a water generator now
Mhm.
near the
Yeah,
arena. We don't know how they would have changed it after Hamish's game, so they like tributes didn't have as much of like access to it, maybe. So, like, I've made the assumption that they maybe changed the system after Haymitch's games. But I know that a lot of the fandom subscribes to the theory that surely there's other Mockingjays that they tried
Mm-hmm.
again because there's these weird things that now that we know that a natural disaster occurred because Haymitch broke the arena, we look at all the natural disasters or like natural disasters, some sort of complication going on in the arena, and we think, is that someone trying to break it? Because the dam breaking in the arena for Annie's games, it's water. It would have to be coming from the water generator that they use and that is described in the 50th games. And there's another one in the 74th games when people speculate that Thresh was the failed Mockingjay. The rain in the 74th games, that is speculated to be like the water generator. That's them breaking the arena so that it was raining down so hard because they were trying to fix the fact that Thresh broke the arena. And that was like the failsafe, the natural disaster failsafe. So it has a lot of parallels. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got like, if it was confirmed to us by Suzanne Collins that it is, in fact, another failed Mockingjay plot. And they were trying to break the arena there. I like the idea, but we also don't know. If anything, the Capitol did try to pass it off as their own idea. So as far as Pan Am is concerned, that it was on purpose from the Capitol.
I think I also want to say that District 4 careers are a little bit different than 1 and 2 because the ones we see in Catching Fire are part of the Rebel plan. I don't know. I think the career tributes, I think there's something different with them, maybe with their volunteer system or something. Like maybe they're not as bloodthirsty
Yeah.
as 1 and 2. Maybe there are more volunteers and maybe they are like the stronger district, but just like you talked about, Finnick going in at 14, probably not a volunteer if he's that young.
Yeah. Yeah, he wouldn't have had the time to build up all the skills. Like he had a number of skills, as we know from Canis's description of his games. He was
Yeah.
highly skilled with the trident, and he like would catch people in a net and then kill them with his trident. So he had skills, but I find it really hard to believe that Mags would raise these children to be ruthless killers. We
Yeah.
get more of her characterization in Sunrise and the Reaping, and
Yeah.
we know she's this really kind woman, and there's this description from Hamish that it's okay to cry in front of Mags. And
Yeah.
you're telling me that she's raised the ruthless killers? I don't think
Like
so.
all the tributes we've seen from 4 are all very nice and sweet in their own way. Like maybe Finnick's a little bit more likes to mess with Katniss, but he is still, especially in
Yeah,
Mockingjay, we see the real Finnick, not the persona he puts on.
yeah,
So that's just, I mean, we don't really see 1 and 2 outside of the games, so maybe they could be 2, but I don't know. I think there's just something different with District 4 careers than the other two. So maybe
yeah,
Annie,
yeah.
yeah, maybe it just isn't as strict with their reaping systems or their volunteer system, not the reaping system, their volunteer systems at the reaping. It's not as convoluted, or it's not just a set. Oh, we are going to volunteer this year. Maybe in District 4 they're like, unless we have a really strong candidate, we're not gonna have volunteers this year.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. It also depends on how each district is like training them to go into the games because Katniss speculates. It's confirmed movie canon and book canon is different. And I've like talked about it in my debunking series in the past that when it comes to movie canon, Haymitch tells Katniss and Peter in the first movie that they train in special academies, which is kind of the assumption that was made by the writers and the director when they came to making the movies. But in the books, book canon states that Katniss kind of just assumes that they train because they show up being able to wield certain weapons.
Don't
Go.
even include District 4 in the careers in the movies. In the first movie,
Yeah.
it's just 1 and 2. So that already kind of like, why would you not include District 4 there except for to just, I don't know, unless there's something more with them.
Yeah, and we know that Susan Collins also had a bit of influence when it came to making the movie as well. I think she's a producer, and I think people assume she was probably in the writing room as well when it came to adapting everything since she's a screenwriter.
Yeah.
So it it would make sense that if the director went to Suzanne Collins and went, well, this is what we're going to change, and Suzanne Collins was like, well, yeah, that makes sense as to the world I've built.
Is there anything else you want to talk about with it?
No, not necessarily. It's just like whether we agree or disagree with it, really.
I mean, I guess I could see it because she wouldn't be a volunteer. She would just be going in. I'm gonna say, I guess, if I have to pick a definitive answer, I guess yes, that Annie didn't volunteer to go in. She just ended up in there and then kind of went a little, you know, but
Yeah.
yeah. But if you told me that Annie was a different person before and she wanted to volunteer, she wanted to go in, then I would believe that too because we just don't know how she was before the games. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm kind of sitting on the fence as well
Mhm.
because there's nothing in the text to necessarily disprove either theory that whether or not she was a volunteer or not, because like there's just evidence for both. We see plenty of 18-year-olds going into the arena, we see plenty of characters going mad in the arena, and like there's lots of reasons why Annie could be either one of them. So it's kind of just like I'm sitting on the fence with this one. I
Yeah.
would believe it if you told me that Annie was a career and fought in the bloodbath, but I'd also believe it if she wasn't a volunteer and was raped just by the odds.
Yeah. That's my thinking.
Yeah. I think we agree with each other
Yeah.
here.
We agree that we don't know. That
Yeah.
it could be both. You could argue both.
Yeah. Lots of evidence in the text for that one.
Yeah.
So I think like it depends on how you interpret the text yourself.
And the last theory is not a theory I necessarily subscribe to, but more of an interesting thought experiment. In the 75th Hunger Games, one or more of the career tributes, not counting Finnick, but the ones from 1 and 2, were in on the rebel plot as well to some extent. However, instead of being given the task to protect important tributes like Finnick and Joanna, they were given the task to strategically kill off less useful tributes by Plutarch. Just like how all of the known rebel tributes kept things from Katniss and Peeta, Plutarch would have kept this part of the plan from everyone else and would not have revealed it to any of them, even after everything's over, for obvious reasons. The reasons he would have done this is to keep up appearances to the capital. Some people had to die to make the plan work. Make sure viewers didn't get bored and kill off any tributes who might be an actual danger to Katniss. For this theory to work, Plutarch would have given careers a list of who to target first, people not in the rebel plot, weak links like the male morphling, etc. I also think he would have had some way to communicate who became expendable during the game with sponsor gifts, just like how he was able to communicate with the main group through the bread. There isn't really any evidence of this, but a few things made me think about it. First, the careers were not at all happy about the quarter quell. Obviously, there's the fact that some of the career tributes clearly didn't want to be part of the games in the interview. In particular, Gloss and Cashmere are said to have been playing on the Capitol's feelings to try to get the games cancelled. They also all held hands, even if some seemed simply caught up in the moment, according to Katniss. Plus, then, at the end of Mockingjay, Inabaria, the only living survivor of the career tributes, were fully on board with having a Hunger Games using Capitol children, saying, let them have a taste of their own medicine. So she's clearly not in love with the Capitol. Also, there were a few weird things at the end of Catching Fire. Why did they so easily believe Katniss was dead without checking? Isn't she supposed to be one of the main targets? Were they just more interested in hunting down Joanna? Or was there something else going on? Also, it was weird that Anabaria and Brutus split up at the end. Why would they have done that? They're up against a much larger team than just split up themselves, which they knew because they found Katniss and Joanna alone. Why not pick them off together? Then there's the fact that Wyrus was killed directly after she helped the group figure out the clock theme. It always kind of bugged me because it just seemed too convenient that she was killed the moment she stopped being useful. Now, to be fair, this is probably just a convenient writing choice. The rest of them all had parts to play narratively, and we had to kill someone from our main team off. But what if it wasn't? Virus had served her use narratively, yes, but also in universe, and she was a bit of a liability in the team considering she had gone into shock and was blabbing. Not about rebel plans, no, but what if something slipped? I could see Plutarch weighing things and deciding she was better off dead at that point. So he sends in a quick sponsor gift message that kills the district female tribute, maybe even telling them where they were. They also notably do not attack Katniss. They do go for Peeta and Finnick to be fair, but that could be explained away. And Abaria only goes for Finnick's thigh, despite him being wide open, smacking down the spear thrown towards Peeta. It's an interesting idea. These people were bred and raised to kill. They managed to win their games to get all the glory, except they quickly learned it wasn't what was promised. Were there any true Capitol loyalists in the arena by the end? Maybe. Did some just go around killing in a career pack because what else was there to do but try to survive the arena for the second time? Probably. But while they've been raised to be killers, they'd also been raised to accept their own deaths and the deaths of their teammates, all in the name of their district and the capital. Would any of these carefully honed weapons be willing to turn on their makers? Lime did, and would know what other victors from her district may have similar inclinations. I didn't think any of them would have expected to survive the 75th Hunger Games, and they'd be called to throw themselves on the pyre for their district once. Would they be willing to do it again? It'd be worth it this time. I hate reading it on my phone. It's so much easier when I have it like on my computer.
No, you did good.
That's the first one I'm gonna say I don't believe.
Yeah. I still think it's very interesting though,
Yeah.
because I think there's things in the text to disprove this one. But it's interesting because I see a lot of theories going around to do with how people think Plutarch is plotting against the rebel plot in some way, or he's trying to manipulate the rebellion in his favor or in certain ways. So there was one, I believe, for a collab I did with The Great Gatsby. And Caitlin, I think it's on her channel, where Plutarch is like calling the shots on who exactly would die and what exactly would happen. I can't remember exactly what the theory was, but it had to do with Plutarch and trying to manipulate behind the scenes to do with like the Hunger Games potentially. I think it was to do with the Hunger Games coin proposed, and Plutarch was actually behind that plot. And there's a lot of theories surrounding how Plutarch was actually behind certain things, that it was him whispering in the ear of Coin or him whispering in the ear of Snow, because we know that he was behind the rebellion and he joined the rebellion and double crossed Snow. So who's to say he isn't double crossing like the tributes as well to get like certain people out, being like Katniss and Peter?
I think Plutarch definitely is like a little puppeteer. He can definitely control things, and he has his own agenda going on that no one else is privy to. I definitely believe that. I don't know if I believe that, let's say, District One is in on it, or like District Two. They weren't obviously in on the rebel plan, but that he would have had communication with them, because I that would be kind of suspicious, because the rebels in the arena are already getting a message, so they couldn't be using like the bread method again, because then that might tip off other people that what's up with everyone getting bread here? Like, why is Finnick so obsessed with bread, and now Brutus and Anabaria are too? So it would have to be something different. Obviously, movie canon and book canon are different. We don't know exactly what happens, like if this happened in the book or not, or if just in the movie. They said that they didn't try to kill Katniss. Well, in the movie, Cashmere does try to go kill Katniss, and Inabar, and Joanna pushes her out of the way, and that's when she kills Cashmere. In the book, it's just said that she says the point of my arrow disappears in his right temple, and the instant it takes to reload, Joanna has buried an axe blade in Cashmere's chest. So they added that in, obviously, in the movie about her pushing Katniss out of the way, but doesn't necessarily say
Yeah.
that Cashmere wasn't trying to kill like Cashmere. It seems like was trying to kill Katniss or Joanna or someone else, and then saying, "Oh, Anabaria only aimed for Finnick's thigh." He was fighting Brutus at that time, so Anabaria coming up, she was probably in my. That's what I think is she was trying to kill Finnick, but that was the only part she could get to at that point, because he is actively fighting Brutus too. So she was just trying to injure him and then go on to continue to try to kill him. So that's why I don't really believe I don't believe the theory part where they're not actively trying to kill them. I think they are. How would that look towards Snow if they weren't good enough actors, or they didn't actively try to kill them, and then Snow would be like, why is one and two out of all people not trying to actively kill Katniss' own career pack over here?
Yeah. I think this theory, as I mentioned, is also like the narrative purpose of Virus, that they always found it odd that she conveniently died. I think the entire time, the narrative purpose for Virus was that she was the canary in the coal
Mm-hmm.
mine. So she was always going to be silenced at some point when there was danger. And she literally acted as the canary. There's also one point when Finnick says, and when he first teams up with Katniss, don't trust one and two. I think that's the same with both movie canon and book canon, that he says, don't trust one and two. We know for sure District 2 isn't a part of the rebellion at that point because they're the last district to fall, and that's well
Mm-hmm.
into the rebellion, that they have to bomb the nut before they actually take over the military in District 2 and take over the whole district. So District 1 goes down easier, as far as we know, during the rebellion. District 2 not so much because they're very buddy-buddy with the capital, seeing as the Plinth family came from District 2. So they definitely couldn't trust Anabaria and Brutus. So they wouldn't be communicating with Plutarch because it would give it away too
Yeah.
easily, because they would give something away because they're trying to. They also, during the Caesar Flickerman interviews, they say that they're just back for like another games.
Yeah.
And
I definitely don't believe that
they,
Anabaria or Brutus
yeah.
are in on that with Plutarch at all.
No. District 1, I'd be more inclined to say that maybe they
Yeah.
could be like puppets of Plutarch. Uh, but we don't they're also teamed up with Anabaria and Brutus, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah.
they show up at the same time. They have their own career pack. So if one person is coming up and then like if District 2 isn't a part of the rebellion, then District 1 couldn't be in on the plot as a puppet to Plutarch because it'd be too dangerous to let them in on it.
Yeah. I mean, because what also you would run the risk of them. I mean, we don't know how Kashmir and Gloss are. I mean, they're a little bit nicer, I guess, in towards Katniss, obviously, than Anabaria and Brutus are, but they're still careers and they're still enemies when they're in the arena. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I would be, like you said, more inclined to believe one, but you would also run the risk if you told Kashmir or Gloss anything. What happens if they went to someone higher up, like blackmail, like, hey, if you help us in the arena, you help me survive, or you help my brother or sister survive, I'll tell you what Plutarch's doing. Plutarch's running something underneath your nose. Even if it's not like, oh, I'm a rebel, still something that Snow doesn't know about, that's gonna piss Snow off.
Yeah, they wouldn't know for sure that someone wouldn't give it away. And we see
Mhm.
in Sunrise and the Reaping that they're very selective about who can know about the
Yeah.
rebellion. Hamish doesn't even tell Maisie what's going on.
I was like, Katniss
So
and
if
Peeta
they're
don't
not
even
telling
know.
Maisie, yeah, exactly. So they're all of a sudden they're telling like District 2
Yeah.
what's going on just to make sure they kill off the right people, but they won't trust Katniss and Peter. Like they also have to be selective not only about who will like go in and kill certain people, but also like when they get captured, they're
Hmm.
going to torture. I think they confirm Anabaria gets captured because she's
Hmm.
one of the surviving tributes. She gets captured by the capital and she knows nothing. She gets treated pretty well. She doesn't like get tortured. I wouldn't say like pretty well. She's still a prisoner of war, but she's not
Yeah.
tortured in the same way Joanna is because Joanna knew the plan. Peter didn't, Anabaria didn't. So why would Anabaria be treated better than the rest of the tributes had she known about some sort of plan to do with Plutarch? Her mere association with Plutarch in the arena would have gotten her tortured.
Yeah. I mean, if she had anything that when once the rebel plan was exposed, I mean, they would have been torturing. If they had any inclination that Inabaria had any knowledge of it, even if it wasn't directly at the rebel plan. Yeah, because like you said in Mockingjay, they're like, oh, Inabaria's, yeah, she's been taken, but she's from two. She's okay. It's the other tributes you're having to worry about. And Peeta didn't, like you said, Peeta
Yeah.
doesn't know anything, and he's still very much tortured.
Yeah. And in the books, it's different in the movies once again. I think she says all the victors. I think
It,
they shorten it because in the books, Katniss says the names and
yeah,
then she forgets Annie
I think
and then
she's
goes up to Coin and is like, include Annie.
so Inabaria is just kind of chilling, I guess, because she's not in 13. She's just out
She,
somewhere.
she survives in the capital somehow in the
Yeah,
books, and I'm
I
pretty
could.
sure they get her back in the movies though.
Yeah, she's at the voting scene
Mm,
in part two, but I guess they just don't because I guess and for movie people they would be like, why would Katniss care about Anabaria? Like, why is she on the list like she is in the books? So they just didn't include
yeah.
her.
So I think when it comes to this theory, I think that there's a lot of evidence suggesting that it's not true. But it
Hmm.
is interesting simply based on the fact that Plutarch is pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes, and we don't know if he was trying to double cross certain people and that he had some sort of agenda beyond just like working with Coin and the rebellion. We know that he wants freedom, as we find out in Sunrise on the Reaping. That's kind of his motive. So, but he's still capital born and bred, and
Yeah.
he is like the right hand man to Snow. So he has a lot of things going into the rebellion that he has a particular kind of mindset. As a side note as well, like Plutarch's characterization in Sunrise on the Reaping is kind of hilarious because no pun intended, like hilarious happens to be there. Uh, the when it comes to Plutarch's characterization, he is so
He's so open
I
about
don't
it, kind of.
yeah, he's he's very you can see that he's very capital. He's very similar with his mindset to
Mhm.
Effie, but he's not as clueless as Effie. But he wants freedom, and he's not clueless because he wants freedom. So he's very well read with his Trajan Heaven's library. He has a lot of characteristics that, yeah, I can't describe it in any other way other than just like capital. He's very obviously privileged compared to a lot of other people who have joined the rebellion. And he has the brain to use both sides of the rebellion and the capital to his advantage.
I think he probably had some kind of backup plan that if Katniss failed like the way
Yeah.
Haymitch did, then he would still have his position. Like it wouldn't be like a Seneca Crane kind of thing where, oh, I'm gonna get killed if something goes wrong. Like they're not gonna know I was a
Yeah.
part of this because everyone else that is a part of this is gonna be dead, but I'm gonna be alive because no one's gonna be able to rat on me.
Yeah, after it, what happens if Snow wins? He'd have to have some
Mhm.
sort of plan because otherwise he's like getting killed for treason.
Yeah,
He's not able to try the rebellion again. He'd have to have some sort of backup plan there.
yeah,
Maybe
because
he's
he
just gonna
waited.
run
Yeah,
into the woods, hope for the
he's
best.
gonna. I don't think he'd survive very long in the woods.
No.
He has some remote island he has access to, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he has some kind of the fact that he waits till like the last second that he can to okay now I gotta dip because Katniss just blew up the
yeah.
arena.
Yeah, he doesn't even properly associate himself with the rebellion in Sunrise on the Reaping either.
Yeah,
He's kind of just off to the side. He's like, well, if it's successful, then I'll jump ship.
yeah. Oh, I was part of this definitely. If it's if
Yeah,
it works out, but otherwise, sorry guys. Like I want that, but I'm
yeah,
not gonna put my neck on the line here.
yeah. So I think that it's really interesting, this
Mhm.
theory, but I don't think that necessarily districts 1 and 2 were in on it just so Plutarch could get like entertainment or just kill off some of them useless people. I
Yeah,
think that just happened naturally because people were trying to survive.
and if he wanted to do that, he wouldn't necessarily have to have 1 and 2 in on it. He could manipulate the arena in some way to push them all together.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's literally the head game maker.
Yeah,
So he can manipulate it in some way himself without like waiting for a human intervention
yeah, and
or
you wouldn't have to
tribute
run that risk
intervention.
of them exposing him some way.
Yeah. Well, since we've finished with the theories today, make sure to check out my part of the of this collab. We're also debunking more theories over on my channel. I post all kinds of Hunger Games and BookTube content on my channel. I post daily Hunger Games videos, and I post lots of theories to do with the Hunger Games. So if you guys love all things Hunger Games, then definitely go over to my part of the club and subscribe.
I really hope you guys enjoyed watching that collab. I know I had a lot of fun filming it. We actually covered 6 Hunger Games theories in total, so head over to her channel to watch the other half. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and head over to CJ's channel and do the same because it really does help with our algorithms. And if you're listening to this bonus episode in podcast form, don't forget to rate, review, and follow. If you guys have been enjoying my videos, I really think you'll enjoy hers too. She posts a lot of Hunger Games videos and talking about Hunger Games theories. I think you guys will really enjoy it, so if you want to head over there and subscribe to her. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next episode. Bye, guys.